Chapter 141. Olivia tried her best to put on a smile. That's fine. Connor looked like a different person now. He had changed out of branded clothes and into the clothes that belonged to Martha's children. Olivia wondered how many children had worn the same clothes. There were even patches sewn on older patches. The clothes were thicker, firmer, and also warmer. Connor didn't seem to mind, though. He followed behind Olivia like a little puppy. Sometimes, he would curiously try to chase after cats or pull at the grass by the roadside. Everything here was new to him. Olivia had followed him onto the boat with the resolve that she might lose her life. Hence, she quickly got used to the island. It wasn't as advanced as the city, but it was much cleaner. As Olivia held Connor in her arms, enjoying the breeze, she suddenly had the urge to just live here. But she knew very well that it would be a matter of time before they were found, even if the island wasn't marked on the map. One day, Ethan's influence would reach this island. Only dozens of families lived on this island, and everyone led a simple life. That was what Tom told Olivia. They had kidnapped Connor for ransom. But that was because they wanted to improve the living conditions on the island. The children here never went to school, and they spent their whole lives fishing at sea. When they got sick, they could only surrender to fate. A few villagers died of pain because they didn't have money for treatment at the hospital. Olivia felt that it was ironic. Marina could easily spend $1 million on Connor's first birthday celebration. But the children here were drooling at the sight of cakes stolen from the kitchen. They divided the cake among themselves into small portions. After they ate the cake, they even licked their lips in fond remembrance. What was good, and what was evil? What was right, and what was wrong? As night fell, Olivia caught the delicious scent of cooking. An excited look appeared in Tom's eyes. "Miss, you're in luck. Mom baked some bread tonight just to welcome you. It's a feast for us too." Olivia was speechless. The excited look in the child's eyes broke her heart. She could have bread for every meal if she liked, but on this island, it was a rare treat. From a young age, she was used to being pampered in the Fordham family. Yes, she knew that poor people existed, but it was completely different now that she was experiencing it herself. Olivia walked up to the door with Connor in her arms. She saw Jerry sketching on the ground with a burnt piece of charcoal. She was surprised to see Jerry drawing so well. "Did you learn to draw?" Tom had a proud look on his face. "We don't even have teachers here, and Jack was the one who taught us how to write. Of course, we never took any lessons. Jerry learned how to draw by himself." "Not bad, right? More than that. It's amazing," Olivia praised sincerely. Jack bought a sketchbook and a pencil for him, but he couldn't bear to touch them. He said that they're too nice. Drawing on the ground doesn't cost a penny. If Jerry had grown up in the city, he'd be a famous artist by now. When Tom said that, an extremely proud look appeared on his face. Olivia's heart grew even heavier. At the dining table, dinner was served. There were potatoes and some unknown vegetables. The main attraction was some fried pieces of meat with bell peppers. Olivia finally realized why they were carrying sacks of stuff when she went after them. Those were all ingredients stolen from the kitchen. To them, those ingredients were hard to come by. Tom and Jerry stared intently at the meat, but neither of them tried to take any. Jack placed the largest piece of meat on Olivia's plate, then gave Martha some as well. The rest was divided equally between the two brothers. Jack poured all the bell peppers onto his plate. Then, he said in a low voice, "Go ahead. Dig in." Chapter 142. Looking at the large piece of meat on her plate, Olivia didn't know what to say. Tom and Jerry were still growing up. They praised Martha's cooking as they enjoyed the meal. Seeing that Olivia wasn't eating, Jack explained, "We only have limited food on the island. Just put up with it." Tom bit his lip. He didn't want to, but still, he picked up the meat from his plate. Then, he placed it on Olivia's plate. "Miss Olivia, you're too pale. Please eat more." Seeing the meat piling on her plate, Olivia felt her heart breaking even more. When one was lacking love, even a tiny bit of kindness could light up their whole world. "Sorry, I'm not hungry yet. You guys should continue." Olivia left with Connor in her arms. The island in winter looked even lonelier under the moonlight. Not long after, someone sat down next to her. It was none other than the quiet Jack. You won't find any food if you get hungry later. Yeah, I know, I'm not hungry. The man produced a small piece of mousse cake from his pocket. It was a little smushed after the ordeal. If you're not used to food in the mountains, this should suit your tastes. Olivia didn't decline it. The sweet and sour taste of strawberries spread in her mouth. Are you guys always so nice to hostages? She asked in a low voice. Not hostages, guests. Jack placed his palms on the ground, looking at the moon as he mumbled, I know you look down on us. To rich young ladies like you, we may be dirty and lowly ants. But even so, we're trying to survive with all our might. I don't look down on you, Jack. Let's talk more later. The man looked at her. Okay. Olivia picked up the yawning child, then stood up. I'll put him to bed first. As soon as Olivia entered the house, Tom came in with some hot water. Miss Olivia, Mom said that city people like you are very particular about cleanliness. So, she heated some water for you. Olivia smiled gently. Thank you. No need for thanks. We don't have good food here, but we do have pipes. Tom secretly took out a piece of chocolate from his pocket. I stole it back then. It's super yummy. You didn't eat dinner, so you must be hungry. Come, eat it. Don't tell Jerry about it, though. Hearing the sound of footsteps, Tom hastily stuffed the chocolate into Olivia's pocket. The footsteps belonged to Jerry, who had brought some thick blankets. It's cold at night, so Mom asked me to add another blanket to your bed. I'll lay it out for you. Noticing Olivia's silence, Jerry hastily explained, it's made from cotton we picked in the wild. Mom sewed it herself. It's already washed clean, and it's very warm. It's not dirty at all. Yes, I know, I'm just very grateful. Olivia patiently put Connor to sleep. Connor was separated from his parents, but he was surprisingly well behaved around her. He never cried or made a fuss so far. Soon, he fell asleep. Olivia carried a small flashlight with her as she walked out of the room. Jack was still waiting at the same spot. He wasn't wearing much, but he didn't seem cold. Olivia turned off the flashlight, then sat down next to him. She wrapped the puffer jacket tightly around her. After spending a day here, I think I quite like your island. It's small, but everyone here leads a simple life. You're not bad people at all. Half of Jack's face was hidden under the mask. A self-mocking smile appeared on his face. Are we not bad people? We kidnapped a child and even asked for ransom. Olivia's gaze was firm. I changed my mind. Chapter 143. Jack looked at Olivia in confusion. Olivia didn't look back at him. Staring into the distance, she continued, to be honest, I didn't mean it at first when I said I wanted to help you guys. As soon as you get involved with that person, you can never get away in one piece. The moment you get the ransom, you'll fall into his trap. When that happens, not just you three, but everyone on the island will be in trouble. When Jack heard that, he subconsciously touched the claw blade he hid at the side. Ignoring it, Olivia continued, but that was until I saw the truth. You guys live in poverty, but your hearts have remained cheerful. The old people in this village don't even have enough money to treat their sicknesses. A lot of them died because of that. Jerry wants to learn to draw, but he can't even bring himself to use a precious pencil. Martha cut her softest clothes into a diaper for a child she doesn't know. I think I can understand you a little. You're probably not from around here. I'm not. Jack's reply was simple and clear. Olivia said, you want to do your best to help them, and I share the same feeling now. This is a beautiful place, and it shouldn't be tainted by the ugly ways of the world. They should keep their cheerfulness. What do you mean by that? Jack was patient. He never mentioned how he would threaten Ethan so far. Instead, he treated Olivia like a guest. It was his kindness that changed Olivia's mind. She didn't want to teach them a lesson anymore. You want money, so it doesn't matter who it comes from. You don't have to get it from Ethan. Olivia stared into his eyes as she said, I have money. Even though it isn't much, it should be enough to help you guys. How much do you have? $500 million. Jack was confused. How was that not much? Under Jack's searching gaze, Olivia chuckled. I know, you must be wondering why someone would be so stupid that they would give strangers money. I only told you half of that story just now. Do you want to listen to the second half? Go ahead, I'll listen. Olivia's voice was gentle, her words were carried by the ocean breeze as she recounted the events. When Jack finished listening, he said right away, I'll kill him for you. Olivia chuckled, killing him won't extend my life. I'll be gone soon. I've donated $500 million to a charity organization. Now, I've finally found a place for the remaining $500 million. It's still his money in the end, though. Let me pay the ransom in his place. Jack was silent for a long while. Olivia continued, don't mess with him, he's crazy. Crazy people aren't scary in this world, but the same can't be said for people who are crazy, rich, and powerful. You think of this place as a haven, but it's only a matter of time before he finds this place. Don't you hate him? Jack asked. I've loved him, and I've also hated him. In my most extreme moments, I even wanted to exact revenge on him by killing his son. After staying here for a day, I've calmed down a lot. Olivia reached out and felt the ocean breeze through her fingers. I think I've finally found a place to belong. Jack, may I use $500 million to buy a final resting place for me here? She would wait until she had figured everything out and carried out her revenge. She would completely cut ties with that person. Then, she would be buried on this island. It was a nice thought. Jack was very familiar with cancer. He saw elderly people on the island die because of it. They died in great pain. He never thought that the weak woman in front of him had the same illness. No wonder she fainted after leaping onto the speedboat. She wasn't sacrificing herself, she was simply too weak. Okay, Jack agreed to the death contract. Let Connor stay with me for another week, then we'll send him back. Okay. Reaching out, Jack suddenly helped her up. Come with me. Chapter 144. Olivia didn't know what Jack was trying to do. She watched as he picked up the flashlight, which shone weakly. The dim light swayed along with Jack's steps, but it managed to light up the space in front of her. Jack led Olivia to the kitchen. Putting on an apron, he swiftly prepared the ingredients. He soaked the leftover bread in an egg mixture, then placed it on the pan while adding some bacon and peas. Olivia watched the man's tall figure under the dim flashlight. He whipped up the dish in an instant. The leaping flames licked at the bottom of the pan. The fire reflected off Jack's metal mask, reminding Olivia of Ethan from the past. No matter how late it was, Ethan would get up and cook something for her when she got hungry. Soon, some delicious eggy bread was served. Jack even plated it nicely for her. Eat, no matter how much time you have left, I hope that it'll be even longer than expected. Holding back tears, Olivia lowered her head and ate the eggy bread. The kindness shown by a stranger enveloped her, helping her forget the pain of betrayal for a moment. Jack's bony hand rested on Olivia's head, caressing it. Even if you only have one day left to live, you should live it to the fullest. Yeah, the days that followed were simple yet joyful. Accepting the mission from Jack, Olivia gathered the children on the island. She began teaching them to read. Connor played with a kitten while he waited. When Olivia's class was over, he followed behind her. Stretching out his arms, he said, Mama, uppy. At first, Olivia kept correcting him so that he wouldn't call her Mama. But as time went on, she got used to it as well. Let me have a look at you, Connor. You fell again, didn't you? Look how dirty your face is. Olivia wiped his face gently. Giggling, Connor held her face between his hands and planted a kiss on it. Miss Olivia, how do planes fly? Miss Olivia, can humans really dive to the bottom of the ocean? Won't they run out of air? Miss Olivia, the children on the island were very nice to her. Olivia already had a plan in mind. The people had been living on this island for years. So, they were probably unregistered residents. First of all, she would submit the documents needed to buy this island. This was to prevent others from developing it. Careless development might affect the original lives of the people here, after all. Next, she would help everyone on the island get their identity documents. The third step would be to develop the island, which would provide security for the residents. They should at least catch up with modern times. Hence, they should have running water, electricity, and access to the internet. The children should be sent to school as well. After finding a reason to live, Olivia felt that it wasn't so difficult to stay alive anymore. The new year was just around the corner. Jack left the island for some special purchases. Tom and Jerry waited eagerly at the shore. When they saw Jack returning with a boat full of things, they leapt in joy. They moved all the things into the house. Other than some supplies, Jack surprisingly got hold of some fruits and snacks. He even bought diapers and baby formula. Olivia was surprised. "Why did you buy these?" "So that you won't have to change his diapers in the middle of the night." Jack passed her a bag. "These are for you." Glancing at them, Olivia felt her face redden. Inside the bag were some changes of underwear, a set of skincare products, and some hand lotion. Jack might be a man of few words, but he was very considerate. Before he left, he even asked her the types of medicine she usually took. "Are these the ones?" "Yes, thank you." Jack turned around awkwardly. "No need for thanks. I'm just paying some interest beforehand." Chapter 145. Jack also bought a new set of clothes for Connor. Overjoyed, the children kept shouting, "It's the new year! It's the new year!" Olivia never thought that she would be counting down to the new year on a special island. She didn't expect to spend the occasion with a group of strangers either. She even had Connor in her arms. After the celebratory dinner, the children gathered for fireworks at sunset. They even stuffed a sparkler or two in Connor's hands. Olivia took many photos of Connor today. Her phone ran out of battery a long time ago. Fortunately, Jack bought a charger for her. After connecting the charger to the solar panels, Olivia managed to charge her phone. As soon as Olivia snapped a photo, a smile appeared on her face. At that moment, she forgot about the suffering she endured when Ethan locked her up. She just wanted to be wild and free for once. "Miss Olivia, come and set off the fireworks with us." "Sure." Whistling, the fireworks shot into the sky and exploded. The children's happy faces could be seen underneath the brilliant lights. The atmosphere in the study of the Miller residence was another story. Ethan flung the ashtray onto the floor, which gave a loud crash. He couldn't get any information from his intelligence network. They couldn't figure out the identities of the kidnappers. They couldn't track where those kidnappers went either. He thought that the kidnappers would ask for ransom soon, but 5 days had already passed. It had been an entire 5 days, but there was nothing from the kidnappers. He couldn't figure out why they risked so much to snatch his child but never asked anything from him. The child wasn't the only one missing. Olivia, who went after Connor, had disappeared as well. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. He had only napped for a few hours in the past few days. But it was extremely difficult to look for people without any clues. What if those people were his enemies and had killed Connor? He should have received news of Connor's death at least. If they were kidnappers, why hadn't they asked for ransom even after so many days? It was New Year's Eve, and other people were gathering and having the time of their lives. In contrast, Ethan walked to the balcony alone, allowing the blanket of snow to cover his body. "You should rest, Mr. Miller." Brent draped a coat over Ethan. Ethan gazed at the snowflakes dancing under the streetlights. A lonely look flashed across his lean face. He said in a hoarse voice, "Brent, what should I do if they're dead?" What should he do? Right now, any words of comfort would turn into a dagger that pierced his wounds. Brent could only repeat, "Mrs. Miller and Master Connor should be fine." Ethan lit a cigarette. As the smoke mingled with the wind and snow, he said in a low voice, "I thought that I'd be happy if she died. When I saw her leaping into the speedboat, I realized that I was wrong. I was terrified that she might leave me." Before Brent could respond, Ethan answered his own question. "She once asked me if I'd be happy if she died. I never got the chance to tell her that I didn't want her to die. I want her to live a happy life." At that moment, Ethan was already losing his mind. He gripped Brent's hands tightly, saying, "I never got to tell her the truth about her child." "Brent, do you think that she realized it already? Was that why she risked everything to save Connor?" "Mr. Miller, you're exhausted. You need proper rest. Brent was exasperated. I know that you're worried about Master Connor and Mrs. Miller. But if you collapse, who'll save them when the kidnappers appear? Chapter 146. At first, Ethan also thought that it was most probably some bold kidnappers. As days passed, he got less confident about his guess. He feared that it might be his enemies. He was worried that a box containing their bodies or body parts would show up on his doorstep one day. The current situation was like casting a stone into water. There was no reaction, and no one knew what was happening in the water. Ethan's patience and wits, which he took pride in, began to crumble as time passed. He didn't dare fall asleep. Once he did, the bloody scenes he experienced before would have Olivia and Connor in them. On the seventh day, Ethan finally collapsed. He hadn't eaten or drunk anything in days, and he didn't even sleep. He watched the surveillance footage time and again, so much so that his eyes were bloodshot. The men he sent out never brought back any useful info either. On the second day of the new year, Brent found Ethan lying unconscious in the bathroom. He hastily called over the family doctor. No one expected that Olivia and Connor would quietly return to Aldenvine at that moment. Connor simply thought that Olivia was taking him to a new place to sightsee. He had no idea that after this trip, they would be separated for life. Aldenvine had heavy snowfall for the past 2 days. The tree branches were heavy with snow. Olivia made a snow rabbit on the bench, and Connor loved it. This child was extremely adorable. Olivia loved him to bits. She patted Connor's head in longing. Connor, it's time I say goodbye to you. Go home to your mother. I hope you grow up well. Connor sensed that something was wrong. Olivia stuffed the string of a hydrogen balloon in his hand, and the child's attention was instantly on the balloon. It was right then that she abandoned the child in a flash. Connor sensed that she was leaving. Tossing the balloon away, he ran toward her while shouting, "Mama, Mama." He hadn't taken more than 2 steps before he fell into the snow. Even so, he didn't give up. He didn't care about the cold snowy ground as he ran toward Olivia with all his might. He didn't know what he did wrong that his mother would suddenly abandon him. Mommy. He could only watch as Olivia picked up her pace. Then, she disappeared from his sight. Madame Burgess heard the cries. She wondered why a child was crying out in the snow. Following the direction of the sound, she looked at Connor with a shocked expression. Master Connor. She dared not believe it. Ethan couldn't find him even after scouring every inch of the city, yet she found him on her way to get groceries. Oh, my goodness, Master Connor. If you had come back any later, your dad would have died of anxiety. Madame Burgess picked Connor up while she informed Brent that the child had been found. Olivia left only after seeing that scene. Ethan had a high fever, and he kept calling Olivia's name, Liv, Liv. Madame Burgess joyously brought the child back. Tears remained in the child's eyes. Good boy, don't cry. Go and see your dad. Madame Burgess wiped the child's tears away, her heart breaking. As if sensing something, Ethan slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Connor, he thought he was dreaming. Daddy. Connor could already call out to him in a clear voice. Ethan hastily pulled the child into his embrace. The joy of recovering a lost child filled his heart. He quickly looked at Madame Burgess. What happened? Slapping her thigh, Madame Burgess immediately started describing. Mr. Miller, I had a dream last night. I dreamed that I picked up an egg, and guess what was in the egg? Why, it was Master Connor. I knew then that he would be found soon. In the end, Ethan frowned. That's way too far back. Get to the point. Chapter 147. Madame Burgess hastily gave Ethan a quick rundown of how she found Connor. Ethan frowned even deeper. You didn't see anyone other than him. No, when I found Master Connor, he was crying. He was also holding a hydrogen balloon in his hand. Oh, right, he also kept calling Mama. Mama, Ethan thought. Connor had never been willing to call Marina Mama, so the person he was calling for couldn't have been her. It could only be Olivia. Brent, who had already brought men to investigate the scene, reported to Ethan right away. Mr. Miller, I've checked the surveillance. Miss Fordham was the one who sent Master Connor back. She purposefully left Master Connor on Madame Burgess' way home from grocery shopping. That way, Madame Burgess would notice him. Was there anyone else besides her? Ethan asked. No, keep investigating. Ethan was even more confused now. Could it be just like Marina said, that Olivia had hired people to kidnap Connor? If she wanted to threaten him, why would she send the child back without even a request? Ethan quickly denied that possibility. The child was still wearing the emerald necklace she gave him. She could have harmed Connor that night. She didn't have to get people to kidnap Connor at all. It wasn't her. So why didn't Connor's kidnappers harm her or the child? No matter how long he thought about it, Ethan couldn't make sense of it. He decided to call Olivia up to ask about it. When he dialed her number, he found that Olivia's phone was turned off. Ethan sat up despite his illness. What did Olivia mean by this? He got someone to track Olivia's location, but he soon found that she never returned to the apartment. She didn't even contact Everly. Instead, he found that she had just withdrawn a sum of money. Was she threatened by someone? Did she strike a deal with them in private? But the cash only totaled up to $700,000. No kidnapper would ask for merely several $100,000. They had kidnapped the richest man's son, after all. Ethan believed that instead of paying the ransom, Olivia was more likely escaping. After all, online payments would easily expose her location. But with cash, no one would find her. She must be planning something. The damned woman was trying to run away again. He should have bound her with iron chains. Ethan ordered, seal all the exits. Don't let her leave. He stuffed the child into Madame Burgess' arms. Take good care of him. Mr. Miller, you're sick. Where are you going? Grabbing his coat, Ethan rushed to the door. He coughed as he said, I'm going to get that stupid woman back. Ethan's face was pale. He held his fist to his mouth time and again as he coughed lightly. He watched as people walked by outside. He had watched the surveillance footage at the bank where Olivia withdrew money. She didn't seem to be threatened. She even went to the mall leisurely. No kidnapper would allow their targets to have so much free time that they would go shopping at a mall. Also, just like Connor, Olivia seemed to have gotten a little plumper. Her mental state seemed to be stable too. She wasn't sickly like she used to be. Ethan had a feeling that she had been living well in the past few days. Mr. Miller, I've already asked someone to check. Mrs. Miller never bought any tickets for any transport. Aren't you being too nervous? Perhaps she just wants to go shopping. Ethan asked, would you withdraw several $100,000 in cash when you go shopping? Lighting a cigarette, Ethan placed his arm on the window. The white smoke hid his sullen face. She placed Connor on the path Madame Burgess takes after grocery shopping. Now, she's using cash to buy things. There's only one explanation she's hiding. From me, Brent reported, we've already sent men to search them all. We'll find her right away. When that happens, you can ask her any questions you have, Mr. Miller. The cigarette was about to finish. It was burning only a mere inch away from his fingers, which was a dangerous distance. Ethan's gaze turned dark. When he thought about Olivia running away again, fury filled his heart. You can run, but you can't hide, he thought. Chapter 148. Meanwhile, Olivia was leaving via the underground passage. She noticed that all the exits of the mall were sealed. Just as expected, Ethan had no intentions of letting her go. Ethan must have thought that she was shopping at the mall, so he immediately sent his men to seal the mall. He wanted to block her off. But he didn't know that she had already changed her clothes and left through the safety corridor. She went to the place where she'd promised to meet Jack. She went to the market nearest to the harbor to buy the things she wanted. Ethan searched for a long while, but he found no trace of Olivia. Holding in his anger, Ethan checked every surveillance camera they missed. Finally, he found Olivia at a junction. Even though it was taken from the back, Ethan could recognize her right away. He also saw a man walking very close to her. Ethan punched the screen so hard that it shattered. The sound of the screen shattering startled everyone. Looking at Ethan's bleeding hand, Brent said, Mr. Miller, your hand. Head to the harbor. Connecting the dots, Ethan guessed that they had been hiding at some island for the past few days. He didn't know what deal Olivia made with the man. The man didn't harm her or the child at all. The islands lacked resources. So, the several 100,000 she withdrew was to buy more resources. Her transport wasn't planes or trains, it was a sea vehicle. It was enough to hide her tracks. Seeing Ethan's murderous gaze, Brent explained. Mr. Miller, it's true that Miss Fordham rescued Master Connor. Maybe she just had some unspoken troubles. If she was threatened even a little, she would have sent a signal for help. Ethan had considered that possibility before. But she had been acting freely all along. It was too easy to ask for help, but she didn't. So, it was clear that she had done this of her will. She had already wanted to leave him ages ago. Now, she even got herself a new man. Ethan was already feverish, and his eyes were red from the heat. His burning body couldn't even hide the cold air around him. Putting this aside, Mr. Miller, I think you should get treatment. You're almost 102 degrees. Ethan's eyes burned with rage, but his voice was cold. Floor the pedal. Olivia moved the stuff she bought onto the speedboat. She knew that Ethan would still be searching the mall right now, but her heart felt uneasy for some reason. Seeing her pale face, Jack couldn't help but ask, "What's the matter? Is it your gastric again?" "No, I just feel a little uneasy. Let's not dawdle and just go." When she moved the last painting set onto the speedboat, she heard tires screeching to a halt. She saw a Bentley pulling up at the harbor. Olivia felt like passing out as her heartbeat quickened. She urged, "Go, just go. He's here." Jack had already started the speedboat. Ethan's voice rang out. "Olivia, come here." Olivia gazed at Ethan with the sea separating them. "Ethan, just let me go. I've already sent Connor back to you. You're going to be engaged soon, so why cling to me?" Ethan's eyes were red as he shouted against the biting cold wind, "I'm giving you one last chance. Come here." The only reply he received was the speedboat picking up speed. The man's gaze was locked onto Olivia like a demon's. He placed his hands on the railing, looking down at her. "Where do you think you're running off to, Olivia?" Chapter 149. Olivia couldn't make out Ethan's expressions anymore, but she felt that he was smiling. When Ethan had finished speaking, he looked at Brent. Is the speedboat not ready yet? He wouldn't let Olivia leave just like that. But had just finished talking when his sight turned black. He collapsed out of the blue. It was entirely within expectations. After all, Ethan hadn't slept or eaten properly for so many days. He had a fever as well. Brent watched the speedboat getting farther away. He sighed helplessly. "Run away, Mrs. Miller," he thought. Ethan's words still lingered in Olivia's mind. The speedboat had traveled a long way, but she couldn't feel any warmth in her body. She sat where she was, curled up into a ball. Her soul seemed to have been sucked out. Crouching in front of her, Jack gave her some tea. It was only then that she felt warmth. "If you're scared, I can send you back." Olivia took a sip. The sweetness chased away some of the darkness in her heart. "I don't want to go back." Olivia gripped the mug tightly. She looked pitiful as if she were an abandoned puppy. "He'll lock me up and stop me from leaving that room." Jack frowned. He couldn't understand it. Since he already has a new lover, why would he be so possessive of you? "It's not possessiveness but hatred. He thinks that my dad killed his sister. But he's also why my dad turned out like that." Olivia was so saddened that she couldn't catch her breath. "I shouldn't have tried to do anything with his son. In the end, I couldn't hurt him at all. I even put myself at risk. I'm so useless." She wanted to make Ethan sad forever, but she didn't expect to risk her life for Connor's sake. In just a few days, Connor was so well fed that he gained 2 pounds. "I'm a failure who can't do anything right. I should have died with him. At least it's better than this. Even after I leave him, I'll still be haunted by nightmares of him." Reaching out, Jack caressed her head. There was pity in his eyes. "You're a kind woman. You didn't do anything wrong. The world is at fault for treating you like this." Jack was a cold man, but at that moment, his voice was extremely warm. "Don't worry, our island isn't that easy to find. After all, there are hundreds of islands in the archipelago. Even if he finds us, we're united. If we hide you well, he won't be able to find you no matter what he does. He'll forget about it as time passes." Olivia doubted it. Every time she closed her eyes, she could see Ethan's furious eyes. Once again, Olivia woke up in the middle of the night. She had left Ethan for 2 days, but she had nightmares every night. She would dream that she was running endlessly, but she couldn't escape Ethan's cage. He followed her like a shadow. Then, he turned into a poisonous snake that wrapped around her. Olivia looked around at the dark room. The sound of the waves crashing against the reefs rang in her ears. She had already returned to the peaceful island, so why was she unable to suppress her fear of Ethan? Everly had gone home for the holidays, so Ethan had nothing to threaten her with. Still, she just couldn't fall asleep. She had wanted to stay on the island for 2 reasons. Firstly, she would cut off Ethan's longing for her. Secondly, she would ruin the mastermind's plans. In Aldenvine, that person could see her every move. Now, Ethan didn't even know that she was hiding on this island. She would wait until that person had let down their guard. Then, she would sneak back to Aldenvine to find out the truth. She would give that person a surprise. Chapter 150. Olivia would feel much better staying on the island. She didn't want to leave for the time being, no matter what reason it was. She watched as the sky turned from dark to bright. As the sun rose, Olivia strolled around the island. Everyone was nice to her. They enthusiastically invited her into their homes for breakfast. They also thanked her for delivering some supplies. Jerry went out even earlier than Olivia. He sat by the beach as he doodled with the art supplies she bought. His youthful and handsome face was filled with excitement. "Miss Olivia, how's this?" He had never formally learned to draw before, but he was talented beyond belief. His black and white drawings in the past were amazing enough. So now that he could color them, they looked even better. Olivia nodded, feeling comforted. "You draw very well." If such talent could be coupled with more knowledge, Jerry would be able to achieve big things in the future. "You taught me well, Miss Olivia. Will you keep staying on the island?" Jerry's eyes gleamed when he looked at her. "Yes," Olivia replied uneasily. She didn't know how long she could stay here. She didn't know which would come first, Ethan or death. "Miss Olivia, you don't look too good. You've been upset for the past few days too. Are you worried about Connor? He can eat and sleep whenever he wants, and people serve him every day." "There's nothing for me to worry about." The next few days remained peaceful. No suspicious people arrived at the island. Olivia's tense mind slowly relaxed. The sea zone was huge here, and they were on an uncharted island. Other than the locals, no one knew that this island existed. Even if Ethan tried to use drones, the wind and snow were harsh at sea. It wouldn't be able to fly far under such horrible weather. At least Ethan wouldn't be able to find her anytime soon. The smile returned to Olivia's face. She had already made plans. After she endured the length of Ethan's patience, the mastermind would have run out of patience too. Olivia found her purpose here. Every day, she taught the children how to read. She also taught Jerry to draw. Sometimes, she would learn how to make shoes from Martha under the warm sun. Jack would go fishing with the villagers. Sometimes, they would return only after a few days. Every time they came back, their boats would be full. Under the rays of the setting sun, everyone relished the joy of harvest. But Olivia noticed something off about Jack's hand. "Were you hurt?" Jack subconsciously hid his hand behind his back. He replied in a low voice, "It's nothing." She forced his hand out. She found a large wound on his palm, and blood was streaming from it. As Olivia stared at Jack, he looked away in embarrassment. He explained, "It's a small cut. I accidentally cut my hand when I was reeling in a huge fish." "It's a huge wound. How can it be a small cut?" Fortunately, she had bought a first aid kit when buying supplies last time. "Come with me." Under the sunset, the two sat down by the door. Olivia patiently bandaged his wounds. The golden rays fell upon Jack's mask, giving him a warm glow. "Be careful next time." Olivia put the first aid kit away. She noticed that he was still staring at the bandaged wound. "What's the matter? Is the bandage loose?" "No." The man raised his head. The sun tinted his black eyes with a faint light. His voice also sounded a little gentler. "You're the first person to have bandaged my wounds." Olivia calmly looked away. She didn't know where Jack came from. The people on the island didn't know about his past either. While she was lost in thought, Jack grabbed her hand. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm giving you a present as thanks."